So today you're going to be doing the Eudiometer Lab, which is a way of measuring the gas that's produced from a single replacement reaction between magnesium and hydrochloric acid. Hopefully you've already done the pre-labs, you know how much magnesium you're going to need, and all that remains to do is the reaction. The hydrochloric acid we're going to be using today is 6 molar, and it should be kept in the fume hood, so please go there to find it. To measure your 8 milliliters, you're going to use a pipette, which has a pipette pump on it. To prepare the pump, the white plunger should be all the way down to the bottom. You put this into the solution and roll with your thumb this white disc until you get to the 2. Now 8 milliliters means that 2 have been released, which is why we want to go to the 2. This can then be placed in your eudiometer. This works a lot better if you've got 2 people, so please bring your lab partner. Put the end of the tip of the pipette into your eudiometer and push the white lever on the top to release the acid into the eudiometer. When you're done adding the acid, you can either hand the pipette to the next person or lay it down in the fume hood. Do not leave it in the acid like this. It becomes top heavy and will knock the acid over. To prepare for the next group, pour the plunger down, push the plunger down, and lie this down in the fume hood. You now have approximately 8 milliliters of acid. It's a good idea to measure it very carefully in the eudiometer for your data table. Going back to your lab station, you'll put the eudiometer into your butterfly clamp. The butterfly clamp works by squeezing these 2 together so that it will hold on securely to your eudiometer. Right now the bottom of the eudiometer is closed. That's good because it's holding our solution. Meanwhile, the next step to do is to figure out how much magnesium you have. Using your ruler in your background calculation, bend the magnesium until it breaks at the right size. You still want to find its mass just as a backup, so record that mass. After you have measured the correct amount of magnesium and bent it to break it, you're going to encapsulate it into this copper wire. Now we learned from the activity series that copper does not react with hydrochloric acid, but magnesium does. So the copper is going to hold on to the magnesium until it finishes reacting. Carefully wrap your magnesium around the copper wire, and then wrap your copper wire around the magnesium. You want to hold it steady but not tight, and the ball needs to be compact enough to fit in the eudiometer. Now, all of this acid is here at the bottom, but we really need to fill the entire eudiometer up with liquid. That way, when the gas is produced, it will eliminate the liquid that we have. So using your beaker, add enough water so it goes to the very, very top of your eudiometer. You can add food coloring. I forgot. This is just for fun. If you forget, it's no big deal. You don't want any air bubbles in your eudiometer, so add until you see the bubble at the top. You're almost ready to begin the reaction. The caged magnesium now will displace some of the water, that's okay, and some of the water will come out, that's also okay. If you notice there's a hole in the stopper, that's on purpose because we want the liquid to be able to escape. The trickiest part of this whole procedure is the flip. Right now, remember, the acid is at the bottom, the rest of this is water, So putting my finger here will not do me any harm. I put my finger over it to avoid getting any air bubbles in, flip it over and submerge it in the beaker. Then I can put this back in the butterfly clamp. There needs to be some space at the bottom. Don't jam the bottom up against the bottom of the beaker. And you can watch the swirls as the acid mixes with the food coloring and the water to reach the magnesium. The magnesium, once the hydrochloric acid reaches it, will begin to react. Through the magic of video chemistry, we're going to set this aside and see what has happened at the end. Now, the amount of magnesium that you chose was intended to produce 40 milliliters of hydrochloric acid. I can see that my pre-lab was not very good because I created more than 40 milliliters. In fact, I have very little water left in my beaker at all. That's okay. There is at least some, so I can keep going. If your bubbles go all the way out your eudiometer, you have created too much gas and you'll have to do this trial again. To measure the amount of gas that's in here, you're again going to put your finger under the water and hold on to the bottom. Now instead, you're going to put it into this tall graduated cylinder. We want to be able to know the pressure that's inside the eudiometer. The only way to know that is by comparing to the pressure that's outside in the atmosphere, which you can find on your phone. To get the pressure inside to be equal to the outside, I want the meniscus of my liquid to match with the meniscus of the graduated cylinder. Then, by careful observation, I can measure the volume of gas that is trapped inside the eudiometer. In my case, it is 49.75. Since the lines are every 0.1 milliliter, I can estimate between them to give me 2 decimal places. That ends trial 1. This can then be emptied in the sink, and you can go and get more acid from the fume hood, use another piece of magnesium, and do trial number 2. You should do 3 trials before the end of the class period.